Good morning, everyone. My name is Tim Chen from Manulife Investment Management. Just a little bit background of my company. I'm sure many of you have heard about Manulife, but Manulife Investment Management is the asset management arm of Manulife Financial Groups, which means our primary service is to manage money for institutional clients. And right now, globally, we are managing about 400 billion US dollars. And this is a very big topic, obviously, inevitable policy response, and I think I'm going to give some idea from investment perspective on how investors are going to look at climate change. And if you haven't heard about the inevitable policy response, the central idea of that is that there is a study report coming out from the COP25 saying that the disruptive changes from climate change is not fully considered or priced in by today's market. That means if we are looking at using today's valuation, looking at today's stock market, that means there is a very strong likelihood that your stock price will fall because of climate change. And my daily job in Manulife is to look at how ESG factors would affect the investment outcomes. And I'm sure you heard about the Australian bushfire recently, and many of the news are about the environmental impact, but I think this is going to have huge impact to the insurance sector of the Australian business as well. So this is just one example of how we look at the investment outcome from climate change. So in order to think about climate change from an investment perspective, we look at different key trends in sustainable development. So the first of all is when we talk about ESG reporting, many of you will consider the materiality of ESG issues. And there are many standards talking about how to define materiality. One very reputable standard is SASB from US. And we are also seeing some regulators in Hong Kong, SFC is talking about green finance. And HKMA is also considering to incorporate ESG factors into their equity portfolio. And this is becoming a huge trend in sustainable investment. But in order for investors to fully consider the extent of climate change investment, we use another framework called TCFD. The full name of this is the Task Force for Climate Change Related Financial Disclosure. So why, among so many standards, why we choose TCFD as a starting point? Because we think TCFD is the standard that seems to be getting the most support from regulators. If you look at the Hong Kong SFC, their consultation paper mentioned a lot about TCFD. And also when you look at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange ESG guidelines consultations, TCFD is quoted as one of the reference when companies need to respond to the climate change aspect of ESG reporting. So we think TCFD has a huge impact, not just to corporate, but also to investors, because when investors and companies use the same language, which is TCFD, to analyze climate-related risks and opportunities, that allow us to capture the risks and opportunities related to climate change more accurately. And our CIO also recognized this importance because Manulife is a very, very long-term investor. In Hong Kong, we manage the MPF business. Maybe some of you also use Manulife as your MPF provider. So we have this long-term investment horizon in mind, and we also hope to consider any long-term risks that may impact the pensions or the retirement funds of Hong Kong people. So TCFD is a very useful framework for us to consider the potential impact. So there are lots of science assumptions behind TCFD, but the general concept is that we use financial modeling to capture the physical impacts that arise from climate change, and that may include typhoon, flooding, or even unusual weather pattern that may affect the financial performance of companies. And we also hope to consider the policies and technologies, opportunity and risk that may arise from climate change, that may include a huge disruption in energy system, as CRP has mentioned, and also that may include the wider adoption of electric vehicles. That is also going to impact the automotive sectors and the supply chain. And also that may include the changes of land uses, for example, and that may also affect property developers. So this is a very this is an issue that's going to affect a wide range of sectors. So we use this financial modeling to help us to arrive in a figure which is called climate value at risk, climate VAR in the short form, in order for us to calculate how much our portfolio is going to be impacted. So this is just some of the preliminary results from our analysis. In the left-hand side, there is a Canadian equity portfolio, which means this is a true stock portfolio from our Canadian team. And the right-hand side, you see an Asian equity portfolio. So how to read this graph? You can see in the central, there's a thermometer saying from 3 degrees to 1.5 degrees. So that means the expected changes in global temperature. And if you see from if you look at the graph from the up to the lower, which means from 3 degree to 1.5 degree, you will see the VAR is going to be more negative from the transition risk, which means if the global temperature is going to rise less than what we expected, and that means the government will have more forceful policies, and that means there will be going to be more disruptive changes to different industries, and different industries will have to put in more maybe R&D costs or maybe more expenditures in order to cope with the carbon targets set up by different governments. So when the global temperature rise less than what we expected, there will be more and more technical opportunity as well. So as you can see from the tech opportunity part, there is the positive side of the climate change. And when we move from 3 degree to 1.5 degree, the Asian category portfolio is actually getting from 5% upside to 40% upside. So this is a good deal for us. And you can see the Canadian equity portfolio and the Asian equity portfolio is actually a little bit different in terms of the risks and opportunities. And that means if we just invest in one region, that will be a huge risk to the investors and also to our customers. And that gives us a very good opportunity for us to diversify our portfolio in order to limit the climate change risk to the investment. So given the time, I'm not going to talk about all the details, but this is just a sample sector weighting to our two different portfolios. And what we have learned from this scenario analysis is that we think climate change is going to be more and more important in the investment. And in the past, many people talk about climate change, but they are not able to capture the actual impact to the investment. But right now, with the right tools and right analysis, such as the inevitable policy response published by the UNPRI and other research bodies, we are able to more accurately predict the impact to different sectors. And this is not so all pessimistic. And from the previous graph, you can see there are some sectors that are able to capture the upside from climate change. So if you are a careful investor, then you may know which sector you should invest in the next decades of years. So in Manulife, we also hope to have more conversation with companies in climate change. So in the past year, we have done more than 20 conversations with different companies regarding their GHG emissions. So in the last year, we will also hope to use climate change as a central theme for our engagement with companies. And this is just a starting point for all of us as an investor, as corporates. Climate change is going to be a huge business risk, but also it presents a huge opportunities. So that's it from us. And these are just some of the disclaimer as an investor, as usual. So thank you.